There seems to be no good news coming in for the Ukrainian president. He is battling war on multiple fronts. On the front lines, the situation is rather grim. We've been telling you about this. Ukraine is struggling to keep up that fight against Russia's war machine. This as US President Donald Trump pushes a new peace formula. On the other hand, searches at the residence of Zelensky's top aide simmering major political crisis and tensions. Our next report telling you more about what's happening on the ground, as the stakes could not be any higher.
In Europe's most volatile war zone, a new diplomatic fault line is opening. Volodymyr Zelensky, once the global face of resistance, is now caught in a brutal geopolitical vice. US President Donald Trump signals a fresh peace proposal, one that reportedly demands Kyiv accept frontline realities as they are today. A deal many see as bad, but possibly the only deal on the table. Zelensky faces a tough choice between a painful compromise or a no deal and further war.
The Russian war continues, and we all hear that Russia scorns the efforts of key global powers to truly end the war with a lasting peace. But whether there will be peace does not depend on Russia's threats or on whatever ultimatums it voices. It depends on the conditions the world ensures so that this aggression cannot be continued.
For Zelensky, this is a nightmare crossroads. His army is stretched, ammunition low, funding from its European allies is uncertain. On the front lines, three separate crises are unfolding. Russia is moving fast in Zaporizhia and in Kupiansk, further to the north. Putin asserts Russian forces have surrounded the embattled Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk and control 70% of it, but Kyiv's top general said Ukraine was pushing back hard. Zelensky is also fighting another losing battle. The flames of corruption has now reached his doorsteps. Ukraine's anti-corruption agencies search the home of his powerful chief of staff. The official, Andriy Yermak, is the person leading Kyiv's negotiating team trying to hash out terms with Washington. Putin is playing hardball. He rules out any agreement with what he calls Ukraine's illegitimate leadership. He alleges Kyiv made a fundamental strategic mistake by not holding elections under martial law. The Russian president thunders his readiness to fight on if Kyiv chooses to fight to the last Ukrainian. Yet behind the chest thumping, Moscow signals something unexpected. Putin is open to discussing a Trump-led peace plan with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's visit to Moscow next week.
As I understand, they decided that all 28 points should be grouped into 4 separate components. We received all this information. In general, we agree that US-backed peace plan can be used as a basis for future agreements. But it will be impolite on my part to speak about any final versions because there are none.
Putin maintains that legal status of Crimea and Donbass is one of the key points of discussions with the US over a newly proposed peace plan for Ukraine. As Putin courts Washington and Trump pushes his own peace formula, Kyiv's room to maneuver narrows by the hour. Zelensky's next move could shape not just Ukraine's fate, but the future of European security itself. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
Indonesia is at the center of a growing international health and safety scare after radioactive contamination was discovered in exports ranging from shrimp and spices to sneakers. Authorities have now opened a criminal investigation, and the substance involved is one of the most feared in the world of nuclear safety. The alarm was first raised in the United States. During a routine inspection, the FDA basically found traces of the substance in a shipment of frozen shrimp imported from Jakarta. At the same time, authorities in the Netherlands detected radiation in shipping containers holding sneakers from Indonesia. Both discoveries pointed to a much larger and far more serious problem. Indonesia's investigation has now focused on a metal processing factory at an industrial estate in Banten province. Investigators claiming that the company is China-owned allegedly and is suspected of processing scrap metal contaminated with the substance reportedly. But investigators say they face a major obstacle. The company's management has reportedly returned to China, making questioning nearly impossible. The impact on the industrial area has been severe reportedly. Around 20 factories, including facilities that process shrimp and manufacture footwear, have been impacted. 9 employees were reportedly found to have been exposed to the substance and were rushed to a government hospital in Jakarta. All contaminated sites have since been decontaminated, but authorities are warning that the full extent of the exposure is still being assessed. Now, the fallout does not even stop there. Earlier this month itself, Indonesian port officials intercepted 8 containers of zinc powder from Angola that also showed signs of the substance contamination. Those containers have been held and are awaiting re-export. The FDA is saying that while the levels detected in food products do not pose an acute threat as such, long-term exposure to even low doses of the substance can raise serious health risks. And with contaminated goods moving through international supply chains, the incident has triggered heightened alerts in multiple countries. For a country with no nuclear power plants, no nuclear weapons, no domestic source of the substance, this incident raises serious questions. Where did the radiation even come from? How long has it been in the food supply chain? And could more contaminated products be out there? Indonesia is scrambling to identify the source, contain the damage, and also reassure the world that its exports are safe. But with radioactive material turning up in everyday products, the stakes are higher than ever. Let's now shift our focus to West Asia, where an alleged incident from the occupied West Bank has triggered outrage and questions and also garnered international attention, where an alleged incident from the occupied West Bank has triggered these reactions. 2 Palestinian men in Jenin were allegedly shot dead during an Israeli raid. And videos broadcast on Arab news channels showing the men surrendering before gunfire erupts. And their deaths have sparked accusations of execution and ignited a renewed debate over Israeli military conduct. The Israeli military saying that it has opened an investigation into the incident. The 2 men were identified by the Palestinian authorities as 26-year-old Al-Muntasir Abdullah and a 37-year-old Yosef Asasa, further claiming that Israel had taken away their bodies. And in one of the videos aired on Palestine TV, the men are seen stepping out of a garage with their hands raised and lifting their shirts to show they are not carrying explosives. And they are later reportedly ordered to the ground and directed to head back towards the garage. A second video from Egyptian TV station showing the men again on the ground at the garage entrance, surrounded by soldiers. Gunshots ringing out, both men falling motionless, while one soldier can be seen firing his weapon. The Israeli military stating that the 2 were wanted militants in northern town of Jenin who had allegedly thrown explosives and opened fire at the troops prior to their arrest, further claiming that they were affiliated with a terror network in the area of Jenin. The military adding that once the men left the building, fire was directed toward the suspects. And the matter is now under review by the appropriate authorities. Now, the statement did not give any reason as to why the Israeli forces opened fire. That's the question that's being asked. Nor did it specify what the 2 men were accused of or if there was any evidence of their alleged link with a terror network. Palestinians and human rights organizations saying that similar such probes have rarely led to accountability. Numbers compiled by AFP from the Palestinian Health Ministry stating that more than 1,000 Palestinians in the West Bank have been killed by Israeli troops or settlers since the Gaza war started. The Palestinian Prime Minister's office, meanwhile, accused Israel of executing the men in cold blood and described the shooting as an outright extrajudicial killing and a violation of international humanitarian law, while Hamas condemned the killing of the men in Jenin as an execution, quote unquote. In fact, Israel's far-right national security minister has taken a starkly different stance, praising the forces involved while stating, and I'm quoting here, terrorists must die, quote unquote. The United Nations, meanwhile, has said it was appalled by the incident. Listen to this.
We're appalled by the brazen killing by Israeli border police yesterday of 2 Palestinian men in Jenin in the occupied West Bank in yet another apparent summary execution. Killings of Palestinians by Israeli security forces and settlers in the occupied West Bank have been surging without any accountability, even in the rare case when investigations are announced.
The incident comes amid the Israeli security forces launching what the IDF described as a counter-terrorism operation in northern West Bank, which the Palestinians said targeted the town of Tobas. The latest issue has added a whole new layer of tensions to a region already overwhelmed by violence, mistrust, and an ever-deepening humanitarian crisis. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.